Hi everybody, Dave Shopius here. Welcome to my robot lab. Hey, today we are going to be working on the neon. I'm hoping to show you guys how easy it is to get this thing up and running and working and flashing. There's been a lot of improvements with the way that we do this to get our neon to flash in sync with the voice. There's always a lot of questions about how to do this, and hopefully I'm going to show you some techniques and the basic information required to do this yourself. It's really a cool thing to get going once you see that first flash and you hear the robot talking. It just kind of brings the whole guy all just to life. I will be going over quickly here the components that we'll be using and a quick overview of what I'll be doing. And then I'm going to stop the camera, set things up, and we'll actually do a hands-on step-by-step tutorial. Hopefully it'll be clear about how to do this. Basically, let's start with the base, and that is the neon backplate right here. Dave Huber makes these. This is where I got this one. I guess you could make your own, but why? It's just a work of art. It fits in the this is for the version 2 torso, but you know what? This is an old torso from the early days. Dewey Howard, I believe his name, made this back, must have been a couple decades ago. So you can see that Dave's backplate works really nice in here. Now, Dave worked with Craig Reinbrecht to get this thing to fit his neon. So this thing should lay right on there excuse me, and work really nice. So so that's where you start. You start with the neon. You get a back plate that fits the neon. So the back plate comes from Dave Huber. This is Craig Reinbrecht's neon, but he has stepped away from building these things for the time being and handed it over to Greg Loge, who is another one of our outstanding vendors, builders, founding fathers. He used to work with Mike Joyce, of all people, building these things back when Mike had his robot building, B9 robot building division. So, but how do you get this thing to flash with the voice? There's another beautiful little wonder here that's came out. We used to use something called Tech 22, and it was it worked, but you had a hard time syncing up your voice with the flash. So Steve Neal sells these, the Neon Voice Interface, version 1 by Steve Neal. You can get all these on or through the B9 Robot Builders website. You can get these 3 items through the B9 Robot Builders website. Dave Huber's backplate. Greg Loge is making the neon now. And Steve Neal has got the interface board right there. So I'll put a link to it underneath this video, okay? Now, you will still need the Tech 22 transformer. Is that upside down? It is upside down. Okay, I am sorry. So, Tech 22, you can find them, T2, Tech 22, you can find them on the internet. This is a gas tube power supply. It's got some wires coming out of it, and they wire up to Steve's interface. The power supply, 12-volt power supply, and then the wires come around, the high voltage wires come around and attach to, of all things, the neon. So it's kind of pretty neat and nifty. We'll build this in a few minutes. Steve's interface then, once that's all plugged in, your volume, I'm sorry, your jack out goes out to the amplifier and the device that's making the sounds, and the amplifier sends it to a set of speakers or a speaker, whatever. Nice thing about this is Steve really gives some nice instructions here about different ways you can wire this up according to your needs, and gives you a really nice write-up of how to do it. So when you order this thing, this stuff comes in there. So you can kind of see right there, it's a really nice diagram. Just simple wires, hook it to here, there's your Tech 22, hook it to there, it comes around, there's your power supply, comes up and screws into his interface board, and then your output to the sound system. So that's, you would think that would be magic, but it's, heck, let's just say it's magic, okay? And there's the output to the sound system. Your stereo plug comes around and ties into your amplifier and the device that makes the sounds. And this is the one we're going to be using today. This is the diagram we're using. He has different ways also, if you want to look at this, hook up different setups that you want to do. It's just wonderful. This guy is just amazing. He figured it out himself. We've been struggling with this thing for 20 years, and Steve Neal comes along and just bangs it right out. What a guy. He's from Australia, but don't let that scare you. He ships it and it gets to you within days. I think I got this in a week. So anyway, this is the setup that we are going to be using on my system, and you see the reason being is that the mechanical sounds that you hear, the robot sounds, are going to be coming from me from a different device and a different amplifier, totally different and separate from the robot voice sounds. I like that because you can turn this off if they get annoying, or you can adjust the volume of this one up and down, and it's a totally independent system from your voice. I think this is the way to go. I really do. So this is what we're going to be wiring up, and with the top configuration here. This is for a full like a LED strip or something in case you don't have a neon. So he gives you all sorts of options here. This guy is amazing. All these guys are amazing. The way they work together and the quality parts that they put out, it just blows me away. I could not have built my robot without these guys. This is actually the second robot I've been working on. I'm doing this for a friend up north. He asked me to help. Okay, how do we go about getting this glass onto that? Okay, I will get into that in a second, but the first thing you need to do is get this back plate and fit it, paint it. Okay, it comes white. Okay, you got to paint it and finish it and fit it into the torso. And that's really a pretty easy thing. I did this in about maybe a half an hour. From the outside, you can pretty much see it fits around the collar up there. And I've got it, there's a lip that comes up underneath, and I've got it just screwed in with 3 panhead bolts, screws rather. You see that these are even and flush along here. You want that because your collar is going to be sitting on here. You don't want nothing bumped up getting in the way. So drill your holes, countersink them so that your panhead or your flathead can, not a panhead, I guess it's called a flathead screw, will sit flush, okay? And then inside, I'll tip it over and show you, but it comes down like this, all the way down to here and back up. So these dialites actually hold the bottom in place. So it makes a really nice platform for this glass, and it's sturdy and nice. So let's tip this over here without breaking it. I'm going to come around to the side without dropping it. Okay, there it is. Okay, there's the inside of it. And you can see how I've got the 3 screws on the top lip. And the whole inside fits right in there nicely, lays up against, there's plenty of room for it. And then the dialite lights lay on the bottom, screw through it, and hold it in place. Now, these are my little inventions here. This has nothing to do with this back plate, other than it gives... What happened was whoever drilled these holes through this torso drilled them too big, and this thing will drop. I mean, it's big enough for these nuts. This nut on the back of this dialite will not grab any fiberglass. So I cut out a couple pieces of plastic so it would push against the plastic, and it's like a big washer, and hold it in place so it wouldn't fall through. So that's all that is. So if you buy the new torso from Craig, you have the option of having those holes already cut for you, and you don't even have to worry about it. Okay, that's such a cool thing. So I'm going to set down the camera right now and set it up on the tripod, and we'll see if we can't get this thing built. Okay, be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've gone ahead and taken the back plate out of the torso, so you can see it's gone, and there it be. You can see where the dialites went through the chest area and held it in. Beautiful design, really nice, sleek. There's the top flange I was talking about with the holes that match up with the holes I drilled. So it's just pretty, it's simple, it's basic. I had to trim it out just a little bit on each side, and that's normal, to get it around where the arm hole, this part up in here. So once I trimmed that down, she set right into place. It was really nice. Okay, now, what are we going to do here? That's a good question. The next step is to get that glass, those neon plates, those neon tubes, mounted in place here. So it's really not as hard as you would think. It's pretty easy, actually. I'm going to use this stuff here. It's black, 100% silicone. A guy could use, something else could use is a black aquarium silicone. I think it's the same thing, you know. But I like to have it attached nice and tight. And once it dries, it'll grab it and it'll never go anywhere. It helps it expand and contract when the glass heats up, or it lets it expand and contract when the glass heats up. And it's good for UV rays or whatever other rays those things put out, so it's not going to crack it up and dry it. I've heard of guys actually drilling holes and attaching it with Ziploc ties too. So whatever you want to do, but I'm going to use the silicone. Now I'm going to show you how easy it is to mount these here. Let's just say the only place you really need to run the silicone bead is if you're doing this way with the silicone, is right along this edge here. Okay, and then along this the back corner, or the bottom actually. If you feel that this is kind of wallered out here a little bit, it's rounded down through there to let the glass sit in there. Craig and Mike mostly did an awesome job in this, thinking this thing through. You can see the nice little indent there where it's going to be sitting. So then you continue through here and then up along this very edge here, okay? And the cutout for the torso is right here, so you'll see that, okay, but it's black on gray on glass, so it just kind of disappears. You'll never notice it, and if you do notice it, you think it's normal, natural. So anyway, this color is gunmetal gray. It matches the chest plate and other parts of the robot. So just a side note there. So what do we do here? Run your bead around there, like I said. Make sure it's big enough where it'll grab the glass, but not so big it'll squish out all over the place and deform. So once you get your bead in there, and you can take your time with this, okay? These, it's not going to take much to get them on there. So set them in there. This one, again, you want to make sure, excuse me, be careful, this stuff is glass, it's neon. You want to make sure it's in place in the proper spot before you squish it down into the neon, or set it into the neon. I'm sorry, set it into the silicone. So I would suggest making sure you do a test fit first. And I'll show you a few things here. See how nice that sits in there? It's just beautiful. So I'm not going to move it around too much. I don't want it flopping out of there. I would suggest taking your leads here. Be careful, okay? Because if you mess around with these too much, you could break the glass. So don't just bend them out of the way. Bend this one straight down, and this one up. Again, be careful it doesn't slip out and fall on the floor. Okay. So, and this is actually pretty tight. It sits right in there. Now, the next one is the big glass here. And that would sit right here, okay? Now this has got a little play back and forth. So if your silicone was there, you'd want to have that thing lined up before you put it down into the silicone, because you don't want to be moving it back and forth once it's on there. So that's why a test fit is very important. Now let me give you a few things here to look at. You're going to want to make sure that this bottom section, this is a two-piece, section 1 is sitting flat, okay? And centered as best as possible. And this one here, this sits right on there. Doesn't even move. So you'd set it down into the silicone, boom, it's there. Now the top one, you're going to be looking at the robot like this. So when you get done, you're going to want to make sure that it looks flat across there, okay? And pretty centered side to side. And you see these 2 points here and here, and you'll notice that this one's shifted over a little bit. If you can, get it as even as possible on these 2 sides. However, if you can't, it's probably because of this little guy right here. You need to have, let's see if I can get that. See that tube coming up there? That needs to have its own little home. And it can't be touching, well, it shouldn't be touching this, okay? This one coming up here should not be touching this. So when you put it on there, it's got to have a little bit of space in there. Even if these are going to be off a little bit. So, and also if, you got to remember, these are blown and handmade, bent and handmade by a human artist. So they're not going to be perfect. They might want to kind of dip a little bit and not sit on there exactly straight. And that's okay, as long as you have your silicone glue on there. But don't push it down like that, okay? And have this cattywampus here. you want this line across here to be straight. So when you get your final set, make sure that happens, okay? So remember, your glue is going to be, or your silicone is going to be up through here and up through here. And it really doesn't matter how much it sticks out that way, because that'll all be hidden by the torso, okay? This will all be hidden by the torso. You won't see this either. So those are the things to look for. And I am going to put the camera down now and set it up on a tripod, and maybe you can watch me do this thing, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, now let me show you one more thing you got to look at before you silicone this thing down in place. Now let's just review what we had talked about. We talked about getting this piece set down, piece one, straight across here, so it's nice and flat and square. We talked about these points here being as even as you can get them, and being aware that this tube here can't be, well, it shouldn't be touching this tube. I'm afraid that might cause interference if it was actually touching. These two leads down here are going to be soldered together when we're done. So that's, you can see how close they are. This is that. So we also talked about getting this straight from side to side and lining this up as best you can. Like I said, for the for even space here and here on this little indent and room here. Now the other thing you need to look at is this gap right here between piece one and piece two. That has got to be as close to maintain as possible to the gap all the way around between the tubes. Sometimes you won't be able to get it, but that's okay. That's where she breaks and goes over. And on this particular setup, they're all going to be different. It's a little bit tight here. And I know with my dry fit, I have to have it all the way to the back here, okay? To get it straight, because when I don't want to be moving it around after I drop it into the silicone. So, okay, everything looks good. I'm going to take the glass off right now and set over out of the danger zone. And then I'll run my bead. All right, again, black silicone. That's what I choose to use. You want to cut the tip. Some guys like to cut it on an angle. Some guys cut it flat. Personally, I don't care. So, the thing that matters is how big the hole is. Pardon me. The hole should be as big as the bead that you want it to be, okay? If it's way too wide, you're going to have a fat bead. If it's a little bitty hole there, you're going to have a little bead. That's about what I want right there, okay? Hope you saw that. Sometimes I have trouble getting things out of the camera angle. So I'm going to start, see, you start to poop out already. You'll start with a nice bead all the way around. Where do I want to start? I forgot to look at that. So, yeah, we want to start right about here. If we don't have to bring it all the way up like this, don't do it. So I'm going to start about even, straight out from there and stop over here. Okay, gently get it out of the way. Remember, that's glass, very expensive stuff too. So let's start right about here. I'm going to run it right down the edge here, but I'm not going to let it overlap. Maybe I should have went with a with an angle. And make this straight. Just run it right along the edge there and make it even as possible. You don't want to wave. Oh. Okay, well, we can clean that up in a minute. Alright, now we're down into here, and I'm going to put it down in the bottom, not up on the side here, because that glass sits right down in the corner down there. Alright, now we'll come up here. I'm going to just start up here and work my way down to that point. I mean, you don't have to be an artist with this, okay? Just be clean. This stuff will take a while to dry too, so we have time. So don't be in a hurry. Alright, easy as that, okay? Be careful with your drips. You don't want to run anything over there. Let the pressure off of your gun so it doesn't poop out all over the place. So be careful with your glass, okay? Set it. Now, what are we going to do about this? I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but anybody that's done any caulking knows they can get their fingers into it and just kind of paint it up a little bit if they need to. Okay, and this one we can kind of push up. You're not going to see this very well anyway because the glass will be over it and it'll be off to the side. Now, let me clean my hand off. Okay, well, I'm going to use this. Should have brought a rag. Alright, now I'm going to get comfortable here and sit down. Make sure everything is ready for me. And set it into place. So I don't want to smush it, I want to kind of set it on an angle. You know, let's think about this. I guess I want to start here as close to the bottom as possible and go straight in because I don't want to drag that bead around. Just like that. Okay. I think can you see it? Worked out pretty nice. Don't really want to push it. There is a little bit of a issue. You see, I might have put too much on there, but I can get in there and flatten that out a little bit with something. So I'm gonna stop right now and think about this. I'll be right back. Okay, catastrophe averted. It was pretty simple. I just got in there with a little putty knife and just kind of smoothed it off. And then I took a piece of paper towel and kind of got in there and smoothed it off and cleaned off the back a little bit. It wasn't a big deal, but the problem was I just put too much silicone on there and she squirted up unevenly. Probably should have just left it alone. You'd never really notice it. Once that thing starts flashing, you can't see nothing back there. So, and if it's dark or in room lighting, you wouldn't notice the abnormal line back there anyway. But you got to ask yourself, is the fix going to be worse than the cure? So in this case, I decided to go for it. So let's keep moving here. And the next thing we will do is put the top glass on. Hopefully, remember, I'm going to just kind of move my stuff out of the way here. Bend everything down. Be careful again about these, where it comes out. We don't want to break that, okay? And remember how we had it before on our dry fit. We want to kind of line those points up before we get this down out of the way, before I drop it into the pile. Just once I touch it, I don't want to move it too much. I want to say that's it right there. So I'm looking here, 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 and here, and it looks all pretty good. Get it into the silicone as much as possible, because this isn't exactly flat. I'm not sure exactly where the warpage is coming from, if it's the back plate or the glass. So I'm making contact with the silicone up through here. And also here and here. And this is where she starts coming up. So these three aren't exactly, these three here aren't even in the silicone. But that's okay, it is everywhere else. And that's good. I have a pretty decent space right here. This is a little bit shifted that way. And if I bring that in centered, it would be hitting this drop right here, so we don't want that. So this is the best we can get it. Again, this is made by a human being, handmade, hand bent on a jig, so it's not going to be perfect. And this is a molded piece. It could be a little bit off, maybe warped a little bit, I don't know. Sit now, let it dry up, and just double check everything still to make sure that everything is the way I want it. And I'm going to call it a night, okay? Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, and we will start wiring up and get it to flash, okay? We'll give it a test fit on the torso too, just to make sure everything fits good. But I took my measurements before, and it should be just fine, okay? We will be back later. Bye-bye. Dave Schopius here with continuing the neon build. In my last segment, you saw me take the two-piece neon, attach it to the already painted base, back plate, provided by Dave Huber. This Craig Reinbrecht provides the neon glass, beautifully built, and they were both, the back plate was actually designed with Craig's neon, so they both fit perfectly. Very nice. Look at my other segments if you want to check that out. So what I have done here is, now that I have everything mounted and the silicone is dry, I went ahead and built my sound system in my robot and wired it up so I could show you how this all works together. It's really pretty simple. I'm using, like I mentioned before, Steve Neal's just wonderful sound interface board. He calls it the Neon Voice Interface. Neon Voice Interface. It's just professional. It does a wonderful job. We've been struggling for years in the club trying to find something like this, and Neil came along. Pardon me. Neil came along and just whipped it out. It's got two knobs right here, two pots, and they adjust the way the neon interacts with the voice. I believe this would be called the gain. I could be wrong, but this makes the signal stronger and phased it away. And this one up here is, I believe, for the syncing of the duration of the sync of the flash to the voice. Again, I don't know, but that's what I've learned playing with it. And this thing pretty much worked right out of the box. Didn't have to putz with anything at all. So he also, where is it? Oh, sorry. Oh, here, I lost it for a minute. Here it is. He actually has got fantastic instructions about different ways to hook this up with a fake neon, like a LED strip, or the real neon, like Craig provides. And it is very, very simple to follow. And here's the sound section on this, how the sound comes out of his thing. And this is the way I'm doing mine. There's different ways of doing this. And there's mechanical sounds that I'm using in the background that are on a whole nother system. And this is the way I have mine set up. It's independently controlled. I like that. You can turn it off, you can raise it, lower it. You don't have to futz with the main volume. And this is the device that plays your music, no matter what that is. Could be a tape player, could be EZB, could be an Arduino, could be a mini board. And this, of course, is the amplifier and the speaker. And this is the way I have my sound system set up. I'll show you that too in a second. And one thing I want to point out in here is the transformer. Okay, this is a Tech 22 transformer. You can get it through Tech 22. You can look it up on our website, b9robotbuilders.com. You need this no matter what. We used to use this along with a Tech 22 voice interface. Craig Reinbrecht actually shows how to interface that on his vendor page along with this method. But to me, this is the superior way to go. This gives you such nice control and a beautiful flash. There's no even, in my opinion, don't even mess with the old Tech 22 interface. You're still going to have to get this transformer though. So something else I want to show you here are these diodes. One in 4759. They're Zinnier diodes. You need one at the exit and one at the entrance. Of course, you know it's two pieces of neon that I showed you. You also connect it in the middle, just like this. It's very simple. So let me put this aside, and I'll come back to the way I wire this. Let's start with the transformer. I decided to mount it on the back of this plate here. I believe that's a pretty good position for it. If you get any kind of feedback off of it, problems, you might want to maybe move it off of there, but I'm not having any issues. You have your primary side, which is high voltage. I decided to come off the back, drill a couple holes, and come through here and attach my first to the top side of the neon, and this other one comes and attaches to the bottom side of the neon. This is the exit, and I have them soldered together here. These wires are very difficult to solder for me. I've been soldering a long time and I couldn't get the solder to stick. Maybe you guys know, but Craig told me that wire nuts work too, just as well. This is high voltage, so when it's flashing, don't stick your fingers in here. Okay, you'll get knocked on your ass or jarred your teeth together. But this is going to be kind of compact and up inside the robot by the top of the torso. There's no need that you're going to be sticking your fingers up in there. I just want you to know that if you see back here, I've got those Zinnier diodes underneath this heatsink. I've got those soldered in like that and right into the wire nut. You see that little black stripe right there? That's the those Zinnier diodes have got a stripe on them, and you got to make sure they're facing the right directions in circuit, or else I got another one back here. You can't see it very well. It's back behind this wire nut. If you don't have those linear diodes facing the right way, you're going to be blocking they're blocking diodes. You're going to be blocking your voltage. So, and both Craig and Neil show them right there. I don't know, you see the little black stripe? Make sure those are facing the right way. Now, I like to bench test all my stuff before I install it. That's why we have it here. Be very careful. This stuff is fragile. These where these leads go into the glass, they'll break off. If you're not careful, they have electrodes inside the glass here. You could burn up. If you try to solder, you get it too hot. So be very careful with all this stuff. And when this thing's flashing, don't get your fingers in there. Okay. Now, this is my bench test. I have this temporarily wired up. Like I said, I have my primary side going out to the glass, and here's the secondary side here that I have coming out that I decided to put a nice Molex connector on so I could disconnect it and get this mounted on the robot easily. And orange, if you look at Neil's instructions here, orange is your trigger. It very simply gets positioned right here on the positive side of this connector right here. If you're not using a fake neon or LED strip, the other side stays open. And then these are my temporary wiring blocks that I have actually coming out of the robot as fuse. I have this fuse that going through a fuse block right now, and I have a 4 amp fuse in there. 4 amp slow blow fuse, because that's what you need as far as current flow. Always fuse your circuits coming in, feeding these two things. And I've got the power for the transformer, which is 12 volts, wired into here also. And Neil's board needs 12 volts also. So I got that all coming out of these temporary wiring blocks, okay? When I mount this all onto into the torso, I'm going to transfer most of this stuff into there, and I'll show you that later. So, let's see how this thing works. Now, let me talk about the stereo side of this now. That was all the power side over there and the wiring. You also need the stereo feeding it somehow too. And let's start here. 3.5 actual stereo plug plugs right into that jack on Steve's board. Comes out, and I've got it running into another jack right here. And what I did here is, if you look at Steve's wiring diagram, you run a sorry, trying to get this right here. You run your input for your amp from your device that's going to be making the sound for you. What I did here is I spliced in. You guys can probably buy something like this. I didn't want to putz around with doing it because I can splice this stuff pretty good. Soldered and spliced in another jack. So I have my RCA plugs here on one side, and I spliced in another 3.5 jack for the output for the trigger. Okay, this goes back to the board, and then it comes up through here, and I have my sound device is going to be the Easy B. Okay, I'm not going to have you guys could have a tape player, or you could have a car stereo, or whatever you want to put in, some kind of mini USB thing, or a Bluetooth receiver even. I'm going to have a Easy B, which actually connects Wi-Fi to a laptop, and that's where my control program is going to be. So not only will this thing give me voice, it will also give me control over servos and motors and stuff. So anyway, I have this hooked into power here. And the other thing I have to mention is this is coming directly from the board, Steve Neal's board. I've got this, the EZB doesn't have a good input, so I had to get inside the EZB and solder in a new jack here. And I actually, on their forum, EZB's forum, I did a tutorial on how to do this. I can put that in a link below the description of this video. So it's really not too bad. You just find the 2 points, solder in 2 wires, the ground and the hot, and bring it out the side and you're good to go. Boom. This also has a, pardon me, a speaker in the bottom. I took that speaker out so you wouldn't get double talk. I have also an EZB down in the leg section. I left the speaker in so you can hear it connect to the network. I'm going to turn it on now, and what you'll hear is you'll probably hear that little voice down on the leg saying you're connected to the network. Then you'll hear a louder voice coming through this speaker right here, okay, through the amp. Well, that one. I have successfully connected to your network. There we go. You heard that one? You probably saw a little flash in the background. That was that speaker talking right there. Just a little bit more of what I have here. The speaker. Okay, well, the wires for the speaker, okay, come off of this. Sorry, I'll come off of this output. This is sound output. Comes down to the top amp here. Now, really quick, the bottom amp, that is just for the mechanical noises that you hear. And coming out of that, that's a laptop speaker. I dug that out of an old laptop. So basically, it's this bottom amp coming from here, playing into there, and I've got the mechanical noises recorded on a one of these little discs here. Got that in there, so it just plays over and over and over in a loop. Now, the nice way about this, if you ever get tired of that, you can turn them down. Whoop. Turn them down, turn them up. Turn them down, or just shut them off, which we're going to do. Now, the top speaker, or the top amp, is for the main voice, and you can adjust it to your desires, but that's pretty much it. It comes from the computer to the USB over Wi-Fi, down to the amp, and then out to the speaker. Boom, kind of like magic. So let me start up Easy Robot here. Okay, now this is very basic. I just got this set up right now just for voice clips. I have the bottom EZB legs is here. I'm not going to do nothing with that today, so I'm not going to connect it. This is all set up to connect. You'll hear a ding. That came from the computer speaker. I'm sorry, that came from the speaker on the robot. And now these are all my voice clips I'm going to play. And we're going to take a look and see how she flashes. Okay. Just later.
Be advised, a B9 robot is truly never done.
Alright. I can probably do a little more adjusting with those little knobs there to sink it in a little bit better.
I have finished analyzing the surface of this alien planet.
Okay. Oh, that's a sound effect. Let's stop that one. You won't hear the robot.
Why did the robot cross the road? Because he was carbon bonded to the chicken. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, what? Is that? That is just beautiful. It syncs nice. It's sharp. It's clean.
Building a B9 robot. Bubble, $300. Torso, $1,000. Laser cut steel tread sections, $1,200. Having me standing in your living room. Priceless.
Very cool.
Data from environmental report complete.
See?
Data from
I mean,
environmental
you can't really
report
see nothing
complete.
there, but there it is.
I have finished analyzing the surface of this alien planet.
Have you ever tried?
Oh, Bender. How did he get in here?
Sitting down with your children and hitting them?
Oh, sorry. That's Bender. I hope I don't get in trouble.
Yeah, it's nothing a lawsuit won't cure.
No, we don't want a lawsuit over this crap. But anyway, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going
Let's
to...
go get drunk.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this right now. Besides going and getting drunk, I'm going to go ahead and mount this into the robot torso and get all this stuff adjusted in the right spots. One last thing, I want to put this board someplace near a vent opening where I can get my hand in. Get my hand in there and do some adjustments later on if I ever need to. Because if it's way up on the top of the torso, it's going to be hard to get to. So that's my next step. I'll get all that mounted, and then we will come back and see what we're going to do about that, okay?
Let's go get drunk.
Okay, Bender, let's go get drunk. After we get drunk, I'll be back, okay? Bye-bye. All right, I've got all my wiring done, and I've got it tested. Everything works pretty good. Before I show you how the neon is mounted and everything looks from the outside with a beauty shot, I'm going to kind of go run through my wiring here a little bit. There's the back, pardon me, there's the back part of the neon backer plate. You see I've got it nicely anchored in place with the diode lights going through it. There's the transformer that I talked about with the primary wires going through the outside, and you can see how nicely protected all that stuff is. It's way back there behind, so there's no way anybody can really try to get their fingers up in there from below or above unless they're really trying, and then they deserve it. Anyway, oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. So anyway, I've got the wires, the secondary wires coming down through here, and this is where I've decided to mount Steve Neal's board. I hope you can see that. It's right by the vent, so you could stick your hand in and do some adjusting to these pots. Let me grab a flashlight. Hopefully, maybe I can get a little better. I don't know if that's any better or not. So, anyway, you see the blue pots there. The one on the bottom, if you're having trouble getting your nice pauses and dark spots between words, turn that one down just a touch. It's a little touchy. That's the one I found that worked the best for adjusting everything. I'm sure everybody's system is going to be different. The one on the right, mid up, didn't affect my flash much at all. But anyway, Steve can answer your questions on this, how to adjust that. I got it working really nice. So also what I did, you'll see here, is I brought the power for the transformer around and hooked it up to a different side over here. In my robot, I've got 2 power supplies and a couple batteries down there that'll kick in with a flip of a switch if you want them on battery power. So I have this thing wired, you notice differently. Here's the power and the trigger for Steve's interface board. And then I have the transformer into this supply, which is hooked up to all the lights. So the idea is I'm going to have the lights and the neon on one power supply when it's plugged into the wall. And then all the sensitive stuff like circuitry boards, sensors and stuff, and the sound system I'm going to have hooked up to the other power supply. What that does, it makes things a lot quieter. When I have the batteries turned on and the power supply off, you can hear the sound, electrical sound from the lights coming through the speaker. When it's on power supply from the wall, the stuff's all separated and it's dead quiet. I mean, you can't hear it much with the batteries on, but if you put your ear up to it, you can. And if you're like me, if you really want things perfect and precise, that bothered me a little bit. But anyway, again, here's my plug, 3.5 plug for the value for the sound in to the trigger board. This plugs into the line that goes between the amp and your device given your sound, which is my Easy B. And again, like I said, I have it spliced in the middle here, and that's where it'll plug in there. So I'm going to take all this stuff and plug it in. And you'll see I have Anderson power plant pins on this side. That's where most of my voltage is going in for the neon, my high voltage, and a lot of amps and stuff for the lights. And this doesn't take much at all, but I want it separated. So with that said, let me shut up and shut this up, and we'll go back. I'll put it together. You'll get a beauty shot. Okay. All right. So I've plugged everything in. Put the body on it, and you can see that. I'm shooting from inside the side of the torso here, the side vent. There's my fuse box on this side. There's one plug that I showed you. Plugs in the interface board. There's where I plug in the interface board sound jack. And right here is Steve's board on the side where I can reach in and get it really good. And way over on the other side, you can probably see the Anderson power pins back over there. There they are. With the red and black that I plug in from the other side. So, there's the inside of the torso. Now, come back. I am going to turn him on now. He's on wall power.
I have successfully connected to your network.
All right, so there's the neon. You see it's plenty of room. Sits in really nice. Let me connect to the Easy B, which you'll see is up on top up there. And let's see if we have some flash now.
Building a P9 robot. Bubble, $300. Torso, $1,000. Laser cut steel tread sections, $1,200. Having me standing in your living room. Priceless.
Of course you are, big guy. Let me give you another example here.
Why did a robot cross the road? Because he was carbon bonded to the chicken. Ha 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 ha.
That always gets me. Alright, of course we got, where would it be without Bender? Here, let's hear Bender talk.
It's nothing a lawsuit won't cure.
So you could use Steve's interface board on almost any robot. I'm thinking that you'd need some light I'm loving it.
Have you ever tried simply turning off the TV, sitting down with your children, and hitting them?
No, Bender, we don't hit our kids. So, there you go. I'm loving it. I really am. Let me give you one or two more voice samples, and that'll be it.
Be advised, a B9 robot is truly never done.
Oh, I got to stop with that one. Okay, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something, or at least found it interesting. Good luck and happy building.